The Knicks post-game show is presented by Tri-State Audi. Visit your Tri-State area Audi dealer today. Game 6 tonight. OG Anunoby led the Knicks with 24, but too much from the Pacers in the second half. Knicks turned it over 17 times, resulting in 34 Pacers points. And Tyrese Halliburton had a huge fourth quarter with 11 points. He finished the game with 21 points and 11 assists. And the Knicks season is over. The Pacers win it tonight, 125-108. They win the series 4-2. Great to have you with us here from our Delta MSG studios. Bill Pito along with Alan Hahn and Wally Zerbiak. So obviously, guys, mixed emotions. Knicks' best season since 2000. There had been some anticipation and some hope. You get past the Celtics, maybe you're on your way to the finals. But it turns out, Alan, the Pacers are a really, really good basketball team.
Yeah, and game one was going to cost you. You had to chase that game, and they weren't able to do that. And that game one will now be another chapter in the history of the Knicks and Pacers. And, you know, you tip your cap to the Pacers. They exposed a lot of weaknesses on the Knicks that we hadn't seen, including, of course, the turnover issue and then the points off turnovers that they were able to score on that. But you also watch this series, come off last year's series, see these two teams right now, look at the East and say, the Knicks-Pacers rivalry is back, and I expect to see these two playing each other again next year at this time.
Yeah, the game one haunted them. Yep. It did the whole entire series. The Pacers were impressive tonight. That's as good of a defensive effort that I think they've put up from start to finish as I've ever seen them play. The Knicks did similar things when they closed out Boston and then what they did in Game 5 at home. But you go into an environment like that, I know the Knicks look like they didn't play well, and
there's a reason why.
There's a reason why they didn't play well. That whole crowd was chanting defense, defense.
Yeah.
That you feel like there's 20,000 people just swallowing you in an atmosphere like that. And you saw the adrenaline that the Indiana Pacers were playing with. That when you're in front of your home fans, you run faster, you move faster, you lock in when you get those open threes. They were drilling shots. Like, I was like, what kind of shot
that was
is that?
a big part of the story.
Yeah, the three-point shooting.
Yeah,
and guys that you weren't prepared for.
Yeah.
And that's that's what happens when you play at home.
Yeah.
When you play at home, you're so comfortable. You get production from guys that you don't expect. It was a flawless effort by that Indiana team, and they're going on to the finals now to play OKC.
How about Andrew Nembhard, the defense on Jalen Brunson? Brunson doesn't get to 20 points, goes 8 of 18. Nembhard, it had been Neesmith for the most part up until this point in the series. And Alan, Nembhard made it brutally tough on Jalen Brunson all night long.
It's the effort of picking up a guy like that physically, right, again, and it's been the whole series, but picking him up 50 feet, 52 feet from the basket, staying in front of him, fighting over screens, staying connected. And in the playoffs, you're going to get away with a lot physically. And a lot of times early in a game, you want to test the officials and see, what can I get away with? What are they going to let me do here? And you saw Jalen Brunson early get frustrated with some of the contact that was being allowed, the physicality of his defense. That takes guts. That takes effort. That's exhausting to play defense like that, but he was willing to do it. And the officials were willing to let it happen and let it play through. And at one point, later in the game, you can see the frustration of Brunson. He went a little John Starks there with the headbutt. You know, again, a little, Knicks Pacers history. But that's how much it does factor in all this whole thing, is that you've got to understand it's an effort to play defense like that. It's not just, the officials allowed it. They're allowing physicality, but you still have to be willing to do it. And that's hard to do, and he was all in tonight on that.
And I give Jalen a lot of credit because Jalen could have snapped. There was a few times where Nembhard was trying to get him to snap and just lose his cool completely. And just throw a punch or do something. And Jalen knows how important it is that he stays out there on that floor. He kept his composure all throughout in this game. That's normally what makes Jalen Brunson so great, just being so even-keeled. But I'll tell you, the performances that you weren't prepared for, Thomas Bryant drilling threes.
Knocking down open threes.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrese Halliburton didn't score in the first quarter, didn't do much in the first half, but they still had a lead.
Yeah.
That's how good this team, how deep this team is. Everyone believes that they don't need, that they can beat you in so many different ways. If the Knicks, if Cat and Brunson aren't playing at a high level, it's going to be tough for the Knicks to win games, especially in the playoffs. Again, this Indiana team, they have just so many ways that they can beat you. It's impressive the way all those guys stepped up and played tonight.
Would you say, though, 58-54 at the half, you'd sign up for that? The whole idea on the road, keep it close.
Right.
Get into the second half. We know the third quarter's
Well, that was the problem. Pacers won the third quarter, Allen, 34-23, and that basically got the Knicks going uphill the rest of the way, and they couldn't make it up.
And you remember Game 5, Jalen Brunson came out red hot, making sure that the Knicks weren't going to have
that was the first three that they hit. Pushed the lead.
Yeah, that's the only contested
4 to 7, and then Nesmith right off the bat, transition, 10-point lead.
Yeah.
Now is when you're in trouble with the Pacers, because when they get a lead, they are front runners. They start really running faster. They start being more aggressive and attacking.
There's Bryant.
Bryant camping out in that three-point line.
Got to stop the ball. And there's
Nemhard hit shooting, but he hits.
They went 20-9 to start the quarter. 20-9. Another open corner three. It was that the Knicks because scrambling so much. The turnovers, of course, were a big part of the story. In that third quarter, Wally, the Knicks had 5 turnovers. The Pacers scored 14 points off of 5 turnovers. Do the math. That's 4 threes and then a 2. How do you get to 14 points? You know what else that means? They scored off every turnover. Devastating.
Yeah, and that's exactly how they wanted to attack the Knicks. You knew that's how they were going to play. But look at the speed and athleticism this team has. They are young. I mean, they are young, they're athletic, they fly up and down the floor. I mean, I'd rather it be a 2 on that dunk than a kick-out 3, maybe.
Two things here, guys.
Don't look at this.
Knicks make 9 threes, Pacers make 17.
Yeah.
And the Knicks give up 34 points on their 18 turnovers. That's a final tally. 18 turnovers resulting in 34 Pacers points. That's the most points off turnovers a Knicks opponent, Allen, has gotten all year long. 34 points. So, to your point, what happened in the third quarter basically happened the whole game.
Yes.
Every time the Knicks turn it over, the Pacers hit a 2 or a 3.
And again, this was the Knicks' formula. Points off turnovers. Against the Pistons, they were killing them with that. The same exact formula the Pacers used against the Knicks. Turnovers for the Knicks this season was not a problem. They were top 10 in the league taking care of the basketball. Is something that the Pacers saw on film clearly.
Yep.
That became a weapon. And it's their weapon, too, all season. But what they did to the Knicks is something that we really haven't seen the Knicks do. No. Turn the ball over a high percentage. Jalen Brunson had another 5-turnover game here, Wally.
Take a look, Allen. Take a look at some of this. Take a look at how the defense on Brunson.
I mean, he was just getting suffocated by 2 guys most of the night. And remember, he's not that tall, so he can't see over defenders. And as a result, he was trying to make some plays and make some risky passes. But this Indiana team was anticipating every single one.
Yeah.
You know, there was swarming defense. They were kind of just funneling Jalen into spots that he's not used to being.
That got deflected. And swarming defense.
And I've been there. There are times where you're just like, what? Like you just almost like you almost quit. And you're like, I don't know what to do with
which one of you hit me?
Yeah, exactly. And they're coming at him in so many different ways and different angles that he's just trying to make a pass from point A to point
B.
One too.
That was right at the half-court line.
Yeah. I mean, just the attacking pressure that they played with, exactly the way the Knicks were playing in Game 5. That's what you can do at home. At home, you can elevate that bar defensively, especially the intensity level, the focus, the energy, the effort, the adrenaline, and that's exactly what we saw this Pacer team. They just came out and they said, there is no way that we are losing this basketball.
They look like the Knicks at home in Game 5 with the defensive intensity.
And in Game 6 of the Boston series, the way they just completely blew Boston out of the water, that's how the Pacers handled this game.
In the second half. Again, it was the Knicks were right there in that first half. You have to look at that first half.
You got to give them credit for that.
And think that they withstood the first punch and all that stuff, and then it was close in that second quarter, 4-point game at the end of the half, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, 24 minutes, you can do this. You have to survive the early third.
Right.
And they couldn't do it.
Nope.
It's always the early third that is so pivotal in these games.
That's why Brunson went off Game 5 early third.
He had 16. Remember, Brunson had 16 points in the third quarter of Game 5.
Yeah, and it was like he took it upon himself to make sure we were not going to have a lull here. But that third quarter stuff, the early third quarter stuff, this has been a problem second half of the season into the playoffs. It's something all the players saw. Remember, Mikal Bridges said maybe we need to do a layup line. Like, this has been an issue for this team.
Yeah.